everyone, it's Devi with doitlikedevi.com, a lifestyle blog and my little corner of the internet. I want to wish you guys a happy 2020. I just got back from a New Year's trip with my husband and I went to his side of the world and I got to meet his family. And you know, when you have to leave your significant other in another country, it's the most painful thing at the airport. I'm sure you guys can relate. So I went through that and I was thinking, oh, how many tears get cried at the airport, you know? So I'm back now and I wanted to do this video on frequently asked questions while filing the I-130 and specifically for petitioning for your spouse. The I-130 is also for, I believe, unmarried children, under 21, and then also for parents. But since I'm filing for my spouse, I'm going to be sharing information that pertains mostly to that. But if you're having a different situation, some of these questions maybe will apply to you. So I compiled this list of questions from questions I had myself during the filing process and also just common ones that I've seen on the Facebook groups or visajourney.com. If you're looking for any kind of help or reassurance, then stay tuned. This is the video for you. I'll also be including the list of questions down in the description below. That way it's just easy access for you and you can skip ahead to the ones that pertain to you. So, okay, to get started, question number 1. Can I file without an attorney? And the answer is yes. If you're willing to put the work in, you're willing to be very careful when you're filing and just making sure that everything is filled out properly, you can definitely do it by yourself. I did my application for the I-130 by myself, and that saves me and my husband like $3,000 for an attorney. You know, if you're not having some kind of very specialized case where there's some, I don't know, crime in your background or just something like that, maybe one of you has applied for some kind of visa before. If your record is pretty clean of that, then you can file yourself and it shouldn't be any problem. Just be very careful. A lot of things are self-explanatory and you can always just, you know, ask questions on the Facebook groups. There's multiple ones and I can name them below as well, or visajourney.com. And if your record's pretty clear on both sides, you and your significant other, your foreign spouse, then the attorney at that point just becomes a very highly paid secretary. I know a couple that use an attorney for their immigration, and even the attorney got it wrong, got certain information pieces wrong. So it's better just to do it yourself. Question number 2 is, I filed my I-130 and created my online account after receiving my Notice of Action 1. I have my priority date, but what is that date in my account above the case status in process and below it says your benefit request has been accepted and is under review? So generally, after you create your online account, after you get that Notice of Action letter 1, you will see like case status, like one of the tabs there in your account on the home page. That date changes whenever USCIS does something to your account. There was a portion back in September where a lot of people's dates changed and it moved away from their priority date. So say their priority date was July, and then in September a lot of people saw that date changed where it says cases in process, your benefit request has been accepted, as under review. That just means that some officer touched your application. So some officer touched your application, and whether it was just to put in your beneficiary's name or upload more documents, like scan from your hard copy mail application to your account, it was just touched in some way. So a lot of times that means that they're looking at your account and it's a good sign. A lot of times it means that they're looking at your application now and that's why it changed the date. So fingers crossed you'll get approved soon. Okay, sorry, I keep moving back and forwards and going closer and farther from the camera. So question number 3. Under my online account, under uploaded scanned documents, I can't open my .tif or PDF to see what they uploaded. So a lot of times when you're sending in your I-130 via mail, they're gonna then take your case and start to scan and upload stuff into your online account, just as far as that whole digitizing process that they're trying to move towards. It's a good thing, I think. But anyways, I had the same problem. I have a Mac laptop and I wasn't able to open to see exactly what they uploaded into my account when I downloaded that piece. It was like the extension was a double extension, like .tiff .pdf in one file. I tried to tinker around with it. I tried to even send it over to a PC. Nothing worked on the extension. The only thing I then did was change that extension from that .tiff .pdf that doesn't even make sense. I changed it just to .tiff, and from there I was able to see it, what they had scanned. And it wasn't a complete scan of everything that I submitted, but it was a portion of it. So it was actually interesting to see what they were picking and choosing as far as what they wanted to be in my account. Okay, question number 4, and follow-up question to the previous one. Why does the scanned uploads only show a portion of what I submitted in the mail? So kind of what I was saying earlier, you submit your file hard copy, it goes to the lockbox, and then from there it gets routed to a service center. The service center will then scan and upload all your documents, or actually a portion, to your online account, which you can then see what they picked and choose to be in your account. If it's not complete, if it's not the whole entire package that you submitted, don't worry. That's the case with most people. Chances are they have it. They just were choosing maybe some vital pieces that they definitely wanted in your account. And I'm sure it's just like a preliminary scan when, especially when you first submit it. So don't worry too much about that. And just remember that the digitizing system is relatively new for USCIS, and they are getting hundreds of applications a day at each service center. So, we're one of hundreds, and then in the grand scheme of the year, thousands. So, let's just trust the process and that they do have our entire package, even if we're not seeing it all uploaded and scanned in our account. Question number 5. I'm trying to fill out the PDF for the I-130 or the I-864. The I-864 is when you're on the consular processing side after the NVC and you're doing that second part, which is more for your foreign spouse to do. But anyways, if you're filling those out, why are some fields unable to edit? So I had the same problem actually with the I-130. There were certain fields with that like editable PDF that I wasn't able to actually type something out. And that's because I don't think Macs, for example, always have the right technology to like make the whole thing writable. So I would download something like Adobe Reader, and there is a free version for like a 7-day trial. So maybe try to do that so you don't have to pay for the whole thing. And then just, fill it out in that period of time. Collect all your data first and then fill it out during the free trial, and then you can, cancel that afterwards. But just make sure that you are filling out all the necessary little fields. Okay, question number 6. Famous question that I would love to know. How easy is it to expedite my case at the USCIS level? And the answer is it's not easy. I heard it's much easier at the NVC level to expedite and get you towards that consular processing quicker. In April 2019, the standards for the expedite at the USCIS level got a lot more strict. So I think there's only a few different ways that you can expedite that are legitimate. One is for military interest of the United States. Another one is for humanitarian reasons, but they don't really list what that encompasses. And then another one would be for financial hardship or some kind of medical reason. And, a lot of people that I've seen on the Facebook groups or Visa Journey, their beneficiary or foreign spouse is coming from war-torn countries like the Middle East or something with conflict like Venezuela, and USCIS is denying those. I'm not exactly sure why, because I personally think that's grounds for an expedite, but I feel like maybe USCIS is thinking, well, if we approve one, we have to approve them all. And then there's no even reason for an expedite. I don't know. And maybe that's not, the best guess. But the point is they are getting denied on the expedite for that. So you have to be very, very meticulous when you're submitting your proof for the expedite. I myself recently called to try to expedite for a military and humanitarian reason. I'm still waiting to hear back. So be prepared that even if you call for the expedite, that you might have to keep following up. The first time that I submitted an expedite call, it actually didn't even go through because I called again and they said it got assigned to somebody at a different service center than where my case actually went to. He got assigned to somebody, but then there was no action on it, so it just kind of like vanished or something. So just be prepared to call, be prepared to wait. Some people had like a 30-day window, a 45-day window before they even heard from USCIS as far as a decision on whether to even grant the expedite alone. Question number 7, do I need to fill out the I-130A? The answer is yes. Yes, make sure that you file the I-130A alongside your I-130, or you will get an RFE, or request for evidence, which is going to slow the whole process down. You don't want any RFEs. Try to avoid that as much as possible. The I-130A is primarily for your beneficiary foreign spouse to fill out. It's information pertaining to them, you know, address history, employment history, blah, blah, blah. If they are overseas, which is a lot of the cases because a lot of us are doing consular processing, if they're overseas, they don't need to sign. That's the only exception, because how are you supposed to get the paper to them for them to sign and come back? Either way, if you deliver it in person or you mail it, it's really expensive, and USCIS happens to know that one, so they don't need to sign it, but it still needs to be filled out and submitted. And I would just, for good measure, put a cover letter on that portion, just explaining that your foreign spouse is overseas. I don't know how necessary it is, but at least you have your bases covered and you can explain, because they are looking for signatures. And I think signatures are one of the first things that deny an application or get you the RFE, which you want to avoid. Another big one here, question number 8. I'm filling out the I-130 application. For things that don't apply to me, do I write NA or leave blank? And the answer is write NA for not applicable, or put none. USCIS just tweeted about this on January 13th. I follow them on Twitter. And they just put that. So make sure that you're not leaving anything blank. That could help hurt your case or get you the RFE, the request for evidence. Just make sure that all fields are just getting filled out. Question number 9 is, can my spouse visit the US on a tourist visa while our I-130 is pending? The answer is technically yes. If you're coming from an ESTA visa country, it might be a little bit easier for you. If you're coming from a different country that's not ESTA, it might be a little bit more difficult. I'm not totally sure, just because my husband's from an ESTA visa country and it's just a matter of paying an online fee. But technically yes, just make sure that they have some kind of proof that they can show the immigration officer or border control at the airport that they do intend to go back to their country or exit the United States, and they don't plan to like immigrate then at that point. The borders are really looking to make sure that no one's immigrating ahead of their time. So while your I-130 is pending, make sure your beneficiary foreign spouse has a return ticket home in the amount of time that the visa is good for, and also something like a letter from their employment saying they're expected back at work on this date, or like a rental agreement giving like the end of lease term, so somewhere in the future, so that the immigration officers know that that person does intend to go back and doesn't plan on just having a ticket here and just like cruising in the United States. Question 10, and this was another question I had. If I changed my maiden name when I got married, do I need to wait to change it legally at the Social Security office, DMV, on my passport first before I can actually apply for the I-130? And the answer is no, thank God. You don't have to wait for that. As long as it shows that intended name change on your marriage certificate, which you have to send anyways because that establishes your legal relationship. As long as that name change is there, that serves as validity for your new married name change. And you don't have to yet wait for the Social Security office to change it and the DMV, etc. You definitely should change it. It's just that you don't have to wait for those first. And again, with the I-130, because it takes so long for approval, you want to send that off as quickly as possible. Not rushed, but just you want to send it off as soon as you possibly can. And for me, when I was filling out forms and writing cover letters and stuff, I was putting my first and my married name, and then in parentheses, I was just putting my maiden name and putting that just for good measure, so they can see that like, okay, my married name and my maiden name, we are are the same person, just to not confuse them. Question 11, and I talked about this in a previous video about the IOE receipts, but the question is, I have an IOE receipt number, but I filed in the mail. Am I part of the electronic process? Okay, so I'm doing this question again because it's worth saying again, but in the spring of 2019, around March or April, there was a very small window that USCIS launched a pilot program, and that's when you first started to see the IOE receipt numbers instead of one of the acronyms or hyphens for one of the service centers. During that time, there was a few people that had a priority date in March or April 2019 and then got approved via the pilot program by like June of 2019, so about 3 months. Unfortunately, ever since that point, everyone's been getting an IOE receipt number, but is not a part of the not a part of the pilot program. So if you don't have an IOE receipt number from a priority date in March or April of last year, and you don't actually have on your Notice of Action 1 saying something about you are benefiting from the pilot program, you're not a part of the pilot program. And another thing to note, if you did file the I-130 hard copy, you will get an IOE receipt number most likely, and then that Notice of Action 1 will give you the assigned service center, because they're still assigning service centers to all IOE receipt numbers. And famous question for me, for you, for everyone is, how long will this process take? And currently, end of 2019, going into early 2020, the process overall is still going to be about a year for us, for our foreign spouse beneficiary to be with us in the United States if you're filing with the consular processing and you're not, already both of you in the United States doing an adjustment of status. It's gonna be a year, around 6 to 7 months on the USCIS end, waiting like a month for it to go to the NVC and then get routed off to the corresponding embassy or consulate of your foreign spouse's country. And that will take another, 5 or 6 months. So in total, you're looking at average times of about a year. And again, this is if you're submitting and everything, processes well, like you avoided getting any kind of RFE or request for evidence. And other factors also need to be taken into consideration, like the service center that you were assigned to, and also what consulate or embassy your beneficiary or foreign spouse belongs to. I think some have a little bit more proficiency or efficiency than others. And if you need further support, please, join visajourney.com, make a timeline so people can track their timelines with you. Join some of the Facebook immigration groups, or even ask your questions down below. I try to get back to people in an efficient amount of time, just because people have questions and we don't want to just sit on things, and because the process takes such a long time. I try to get back to people right away. And I've found the immigration community online on Facebook, for example, they're very responsive and helpful. You can literally ask anything under the sun. You can even ask something as simple as, what's a priority date? Some people I have seen ask that, and people will answer them, because whether you're at the very beginning and ready to apply, or you already submitted your application, there's just a breadth of people that are on there, and it's a good resource for you. If you're in the process of filing the I-130 for a spousal visa, I did make a video, so go ahead and check that out. I'll be linking it down below in the description. It's my video, Best Supporting Evidence for Your I-130 Spousal Visa. And that's about it for this FAQ video. If you could do me a huge favor and just like or comment or subscribe, that way I'm able to reach more people and we can all together get our questions answered and help more people. So if you could please do that for me as a tiny favor, whatever you are moved to do, I would really appreciate it. That way we're able to help more people on this journey. And I want to say thank you so much for watching, for being here, and I will continue to keep updating as my process and filing goes further along. And of course, I'm crossing my fingers for you all, and good luck to all of you on your journeys as well.